uma giga em cada andar. O meu lugar é cercado de luta e suor, esperança num mundo melhor e cerveja pra comemorar. O meu lugar tem seus mitos e seres de luz, é bem perto de Oswaldo Cruz, mas caminha pra não viajar. O meu lugar é sorriso, é paz e prazer. O seu nome é doce dizer, Madureira. Meu lugar é caminho, jardim e oceano. Pra quem samba até de manhã, uma giga em cada andar, cada andar. O meu lugar é cercado de luta e suor, esperança no mundo melhor e cerveja pra comemorar. O meu lugar tem seus mitos e seres de luz, é bem perto de Oswaldo Cruz, gastando na voz do viajar. O meu lugar é sorriso, é paz e prazer, e seu nome é doce dizer. Como é que é, gente? Madureira. A saudade me faz relembrar os amores que eu tive por lá. É difícil esquecer nosso lugar, que é eterno no meu coração. Meus poetas trazem inspiração pra cantar e escrever. Ah, meu lugar, quem ouviu te amar a dançar, como ali o terreiro benzer, e ainda tem jogo a luz do luar. Ah, meu lugar, tenho coisas pra gente dizer, o difícil é saber terminar. Madureira.
Bom dia. I'm your real estate investment broker, Charles Clark here, here with another bright idea, bringing you the Inspire Business Council. Want to give a big shout out to Next Home My Way. I am in our studio using our social media room to put on our webinar. So thank you to the Next Home My Way group, Angel, Carlos, and Jose for allowing me to promote and put on my brand with Raise the Standard and Aspire, along with Aspire Beast Council, and why you guys are here. So want to first always give this big shout out to them, pretty much sponsoring all of this. All right. So just to go over Aspire Beast Council, the whole premise of this is from the Aspire Mastermind Group. We put this on to give individuals a better understanding of how to analyze deals. I know this is sometimes what stops most people from moving forward. They don't know how to analyze a deal. And we wanted to provide this to individuals because I know a lot of times individuals are looking for other ways on how to invest and how to make more money from their business that they're currently doing, and to generate more income. So Aspire Beast Council is really a calculator that I created based off the Aspire meetup group. I wanted to correlate something that could allow individuals to better understand how to analyze deals. So to give you some context, Aspire is also an acronym on how to analyze deals. So A is for asset address. Basically, getting the information you need about that property. You know, the address, what is it? Is it a duplex? You know, room sizes, how many rooms, how many bathrooms, things of that nature. Then S is for seller situation. Who owns it, right? Who is the person responsible for the property? What is their situation, right? Is it bank owned? Is it city owned? Is it a person in a distressed situation? Is it an LLC and they're putting the property on the market to sell it, right? You want to understand that as best as possible. And then purchase price, purchase assumption, right? Is it on the market? And if it is, what is the price? And what do you assume that the price should be based on just the general information you want, right? Sometimes you do want to work a little bit backwards. That is pretty much what the 70% rule is. If you know the ARV of the area and you know that you got to do the 70% rule, so you back into that offer price, right? So, hey, this is how much I can sell it for. I got to do 70%. Minus rehab costs, and this is the MAO, right? Maximal acceptable offer. So those are some of the things that you can do. So sorry, moving around here a little bit. So that you can understand what the purchase price will be. I is for improvement investment. Like, what do I need to do to add the value add? And I would say this is the most important aspect of most real estate deals, right? I tell contractors all the time, they are the most important part of the deal. They are the value add. The value add is pretty much how you make deals happen, right? It's the force appreciation. If you don't have that, most of the times you're just buying a deal, and if you don't do anything, then you're just buying the deal as is, right? So the I is very important to understand and know what it is and what it will take to improve that property. Then after that, you want to go to R, which is revenue, and revenue could be the cash flow. It could be the rents, right? Or it could be the profit from a fix and flip. So from the property, from a fix and flip standpoint, that's the profit after everything else, right? Costs of selling it, holding it, and everything else. You want to know those numbers as well. I want to put some classical music on in the background here. So that's R, and then E is exit strategy. So in most situations, again, reverse engineering, you kind of want to go into the situation knowing what you want to do. Obviously, going through those things, you might adjust. But for example, so the exit strategies is typically, this calculator uses 5 of them. You're going to buy and hold, the BRRRR method, fix and flip, creative financing, seller financing, or wholesaling. So those are the 5 exit strategies that this calculator base everything off of. And so I'll give you an example of how this might go. So I had a deal with one of my clients. Went into it thinking it was going to be a fix and flip, but I also ran the numbers that if it was going to be a BRRRR and that he could refinance, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. And that's what he ended up actually doing. He didn't do the fix and flip because the market kind of shifted a little bit and he didn't think he would get his number. And so that is a way of, having alternative ways of looking at a deal, but knowing what the exit strategy is. You should know what you're going to do with that deal. Even if you say, I'm going to hold this forever, you still should have an exit strategy of, okay, what does that mean when you say hold forever? Like, I'm going to put it in a trust, then I'm going to refinance in year 5, right? That's still part of the exit strategy and how you're going to use the equity. Because as I'm a big proponent, if equity is sitting, you're wasting. That's money wasted, because equity is paper money. It's not real. It's not real until you use it. So the only 3 ways you can use equity is cash out refi, HELOC, or you sell it. So if you don't do any 3 things of that, that's just money sitting there, and you're just letting cash get eaten away with inflation and everything else. So that is Aspire. And so we're going to go into our first deal and get this started. So as you know, and if you don't know, and this is your first time here with me, I am a licensed real estate broker in the state of Wisconsin, and so I only focus on real estate investors. So if you see me doing a regular deal, is because that's a client of mine, and they are forcing me to help them buy their home. I do have a little joke that I will help you buy your mini mansion after I get you to a $5 million portfolio, but typically you will not see me just helping someone buy their home. There has to be a strategy to it. So for example, I just helped one of my clients be a first-time home buyer. They bought a duplex, and he is buying it to move in it, but it's a duplex. He's renting it out, and then we have a strategy where he's going to burr it. He's going to pull some money out in the next 12 to 15 months and then go get the next deal. So that is how I work with people. I have my little motto of I don't help you buy a property. I help you build a real estate investment business. I don't help you buy a property. I help you buy a business. It just so happens to be a property, right? And so that's the whole premise of my business model, and part of reason why I am educating on you on how to analyze a deal. So part of me sharing with you why I am a licensed broker in real estate is because I don't pick properties or deals that are currently on the market, because I don't want other agents or brokers getting mad at me if I talk badly about a property being on the market and why it's sitting there. So I tend to pick deals that have already closed or expired or some form of that, so that I don't anger people out there in my market, because I think a lot of our market is priced wrong, and that's because a lot of agents and a lot of investors, frankly, are hobbyists, and they don't understand value in the sense of from an investor standpoint. So, with that being said, let me pull up the first property. The property that we're going to analyze. So what I tend to do is I'm going to kind of go over this with you guys. So with the Aspire Beast Council, it's just not a regular calculator. I would like to say it's trying to tell you a story, so you have to interact with it. So pushing the first button, and kind of triggers and then goes through everything. And it's going to be kind of like thinking or whatever, and then it's just basically going to pump out what you need to give it to you for the first steps. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload some of the documents. Matter of fact, here, let's see if I can do this and see if this works. Bedrooms, it's 2 and 1 up and down. The square footage is 1,903 square feet. It was built in 1890. Lot size unknown. It's currently occupied. Known condition is unknown. The current asking price when it was on the market is $187,000. Please run this and then go to S. So it's going to put all that information in there. I gave it a lot of what it was asking for. It is tenant occupied. I don't know the condition. It has some pictures in there, which I'm going to upload a little bit later, but this is the asking price. So so now it's going to ask for the seller situation. Why is the seller selling? We can put unknown. So so let's go through this. Unknown why seller is selling. It is a LLC. Currently, it was on the market 104 days. I've seen a couple price drops. It's currently expired. Unknown debt or liens. I'm assuming seller is open to some flexibility. So now that I gave it that information, so now the calculator is kind of assessing everything, right? So like this is why I like this. It's kind of helping you understand from an investor standpoint, especially if you're new. Like, what should I be asking myself? What should I be thinking based on this information, right? So like going back up here, when I gave it the information, well, council asset assessment. The asset is located in an older housing pocket of Milwaukee where duplexes are common. And investor activity exists, market support likely present, right? So one thing right there, like now that I know it is expired, if this is an older housing and a lot of the duplexes in the area are owned by investors, why didn't someone pick this up? Like what was up with it, right? 1890 is the year it was built, so you know it's a heavier rehab possibly. As I look at some of the pictures, it looked like some work was done to it, but you know, what does the roof look like? What's some of the mechanicals? What are some of the other things that we need to consider, right? And then it says tenant is occupied. So if it's tenant occupied, it's very hard to consider this as a fix and flip or possibly a BRRRR because I have tenants in there, right? So now I'm kind of buying it based off of it being a buy and hold. And if that's the case, that really dictates the price that is on the market, right? Because if I can't make an initial any adjustments, I have to ensure that the rents are going to cover the debt that I will put on this property. So that's where debt service cover ratio really comes into play, especially if I want to try to get a DSCR loan. Because if the rents can't cover that, that's going to really dictate, you know, the type of deal. And then that really dictates the price that I can try to buy this property at. So, and I would say a lot of investors don't consider that, and a lot of agents don't understand that. And so this is some of the things you have to think about when you are looking at these properties and they are fully occupied. So now that I told that information, it's going to say, well, extended market exposure plus expiration. There is some negotiation because we know they had their hand up ready to sell, right? And it didn't sell. So that means either the property is in a certain condition and they priced it wrong, right? And but they obviously wanted to sell because they obviously want to do something else. I know a lot of investors say, oh, I don't need it. I can keep it if I want it. Well, if that was the case, why did you put it on the market, right? So you got to understand that, right? And the second thing is LLC ownership reduces emotional attachment, right? So now maybe it's like, hey, I get that you think that it was worth something, but obviously it didn't sell at what you think. Maybe we can negotiate. Maybe there's some room here that I can work with you, so maybe we can get closer to your number in other ways, right? This is where seller financing might come in. Hey, let me seller finance it. These leases are under a certain amount. Let me seller finance it for the next year. One of the leases are coming up due. I can move someone else, fix it up, move the other tenant into the unit after I fix it up, and then I can fix up the other one and then refinance, pull my money out, pay you what you wanted initially, and we're both happy. So, right, that's a negotiation tactic by seller financing, but it makes everyone happy because if they had this number in their head, hey, maybe we can get at it, but you got to be flexible with how we get to that point. All right, so price and purchase assumption. So what I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to I am going to interject price right here, right? So I'm going to upload. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. So I'm going to upload the CMA for this property. if I can find it. There we go. And then I'm going to say run P based off the CMA so that we can justify price, and then move to I after that. So I'm giving it the price range based on the CMA. So this will start helping us with the purchase price. Um, and so with that, um, it's going through the price range, right? It is a lot of people, at first I was one of those individuals where square footage is like, what square footage matters? But square foot is kind of like cap ratio, right? Cap, cap rate. It just helps you be able to compare properties that you might not necessarily be able to compare, right? Because maybe a property is, 1,500 square feet and 2,000 square feet, but the 1,500 square feet is in better condition than the 2,000 square feet. It allows you to better compare those properties based on certain things, right? So getting the average price per square footage now, when I can estimate maybe more of, hey, this 1,500, the 1,500 property sold at this amount. Now I have this 2,000. Let me take the price per square footage there. Now that I can put it on this 2,000, and now I have a better price assumption, right? I have a starting point where I can use that information to better assess the property that I'm looking at, to better understand where I'm sitting with the property, and where I could price it at, right? So all these things are funnels, guys, right? Because at the end of the day, this is on paper, it's not reality, because reality hits when you close and now everything comes into play. So you are just trying to create funnels so that you can buy at the right amount, do the things you need to do so that you can, get to the next property, because this is about scaling, right? If you're in this, just buy one at a time, one every 3 years, this is a different game you're playing, and that's a different game. And um that's someone who's just buying based off of comfortability. Hey, they love their job, they know they need to invest in real estate, and they're in no rush. Perfect. You don't need to take these things as serious and as in depth. Obviously you should still do it, but you're going to approach things a little bit differently than some other people. uh, So as we keep moving, it's breaking down. The original ask price is 187. See, right now it's already saying, hey, based off of this, we might need to be this at a 150, 165. Even at the even though I haven't told it what the rents are, it's basing off like based on this stuff, it's probably around 150 and 165. And again, even though someone has an LLC, emotions are still involved because they're human beings. And some people think something is worth more than what it is because they don't have a system in place. I've ran into a lot of people who have 30, 40, 50, 100 units, and I still call them hobbyists. I put people in two categories. You're either a real estate investor or you're an investor who invests in real estate. And a lot of people who have a lot of properties are investors who invest in real estate, and they don't sometimes have systems in place. But because they have access to money, because they was able to scale quickly, they was able to acquire a lot of stuff, but still don't understand what a value of money. They still don't understand how to truly price something. Just because you can keep raising rents and you haven't update the property don't mean that property is worth more, right? That I've seen that a lot, where they bought something for 100,000, they put 20 in it, and they were able to keep raising rents for the past 5 years, and now they think the house is worth 200,000 just because now they got rents at 1,200. The rental market has nothing to do with the actual well, I wouldn't say it doesn't, but just because you were able to keep raising the rent doesn't mean the value of that property is moved up. Because if you didn't do anything to truly add value to that property, and I now have to buy it and update everything, that property is not worth those rents, because now I have to put in all that money to maintain those rents because now you're ready to get rid of it. So you've got to be aware of those things, and running the numbers and having systems in place will allow you to do that. So now it's kind of giving me a maximum acceptable offer. It's kind of moving a little bit forward by giving me this stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically say, I'm going to give it, here we go. I'm going to give it the MLS because it has some pictures. Use this document photos to assess what the improvement rehab budget will be. Also take in consideration the age of the property and moving forward. So it's going to kind of take, so this is another thing why I love AI and being able to use technology, and now I can upload photos of the property and then it can give me a rough assessment of what they think should be done and helping me better understand the property from that standpoint. So it's going through it, right? It's saying the council finds kitchen, dated cabinetry, mismatched finishes, worn surfaces. Bathrooms are functioning, but dated, cosmetic. So it's already letting you know there's definitely areas that I can improve it. And so based on the price and based on where it's already assessing, I can already tell that the investor was trying to get the price of where it should be if it would have done these things already. If they would have bought this property and did these things, they should be able to sell the property at the price that they're asking. And it's too many times, it's too many times that incompetent investors and agents put the property at a price at what it should be if the client actually did the things that they were supposed to do. And now as an investor who's trying to look at it and buy, they're basically eating into my profit because of the things I need to do. So let's just say, let's kind of look at this. I already kind of have it up. I'm going to look at, so this property is bought in 2023 at 160. They overpaid. And if they did some things, now they're trying to get some of it back and probably did not put the money in the right places. That's just me. That's just my initial assessment, because now they're 2 years later, they're trying to sell it. I don't think they probably add anything to it. And now they just assume because rents were raised, now let me just sell this property. People might not like my opinion on that, but that's what happens. A lot of investors buy something, they hold it, they raise rents, and then they try to turn around and sell it at a higher amount thinking that is worth more. Let me let you know this right now. Real estate is no different than cars sometimes. Just because we have always said real estate always go up. No, it does not. If you bought something and then you didn't improve it, it's not worth more. It deteriorates just like everything else. So if you didn't improve that property, don't just naturally assume that that property is worth more. And that's too many times. I'm sorry. I've been doing this business for too long now that I have a strong opinion that there's a lot of incompetent investors out there, and there's other incompetent agents out there that just go along with those incompetent investors, because they'll say, put it on the market at this, and this is what I want to sell it for. And then it sits on the market for 100+ days. I'm sorry, that's what it is. So that's why you need to understand present value, future value. You need to understand cap rate. You need to understand cash on cash return. You need to understand these terms so that you are better able to assess and create funnels for yourself. So you're not over buying things, and then when you're ready to try to put it back on the market, you want to take advantage of the next person to buy it. And that happens too often, that you have incompetent agents working with new investors, and then you get them to buy something that's overpriced and they shouldn't have purchased it, and now they're caught up in something that they can't get out of because they don't have the funds to fix it up to the point where it needs to be so they can get the true value out of that property. I'll get off my soapbox now. So it's going through it and letting us know, okay, this is what I think some of the things that need to be done, siding, functional but age. So like these are things that probably needs to get done. And now you are asking 20,000 more for a property that I got to replace the roof. I got to put new water heaters in there. I got to update the furnace, and now I got to update the kitchens and bathrooms. No. You know what I'm saying? No. I mean, like they say the mechanicals are in good working condition. That just letting me know they're old, but they still work. So now I also this deal with the structure of the deal. Like now I got to make sure I get a home warranty. You know, so you want to make sure you do things to protect yourself, but also see right here, they already assume right here to stabilize it is 52,000. And then if I have to do any of these things, I got to add an extra 18 to 35,000. So, and the exterior 15 to 27. So like, obviously, you know, so it's going from like 70 to 95,000, which again is possible because if they bought it 2 years ago and they didn't do anything, and I'm looking at this went into foreclosure in 2022. It was bought from them from 60,000. I'm assuming some work probably was done to it, but was it the right work? It doesn't look like it because it had mismatched countertops and everything else. So was that done originally? So again, this is in a situation where someone mismanaged it before, someone didn't over leveraged and bought something when it was overvalued, bought it at that price, and now they need to try to keep selling it higher and higher when there was a diminishing return. And ladies and gentlemen, you have to learn these financial terms because these financial terms really help you. Like there's diminishing return, right? There comes a point where investing more and more into something is not going to get me the return that I'm looking for. Opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is if I'm doing this, then that means I can't do something else. Right. So if I'm buying this and I have $20,000 and if I fix the roof, that means I can't fix the bathroom or I'm updating the kitchen and bathroom and now I can't update the water heater and furnaces. So right here, let me know that if I have to put at least amount. Now, again, this is always over conservative. Some general contractor can come here and say, I can do all that work for $50,000 and I can save you 20. Awesome. And that's what you kind of use. Hey, you go into this using, say, hey, I think it's going to cost 70,000. Right here, see, they had previously assumed that the budget was 55,000, right? We updid it because we assumed that, right? This calculator is not a general contractor. They don't have other things that they might have access to. So the council now verify rent from the units. But what I'm also going to do, because I did run that as well. So please use this document to rerun R to see if there's an opportunity to raise rents if we are able to fix up the property moving forward. All right. So pretty much it's at the top. And again, this proves my point. Just because you keep able to raise in rent and you didn't update the property doesn't mean the property is worth more. It's just that the market, especially in Milwaukee, the rental market is it's rising. It's because we don't have the supply that we necessarily need to stabilize rents. So rents are going to keep moving up because we don't have enough supply for people to buy. And because you don't have enough supply for people to buy, you're going to have more renters. And then if you have more renters, rents are going to keep going up. So if you're an investor that came across a property and you could buy it, and then you'd be like, well, I don't need to update it, but I'm still able to raise rents. Therefore, this property is worth more. In theory, you are correct, because that is where the value, that's like where the DSCR loan comes in, right? It looks at the rents. Rents can cover everything, and then the value of that property is worth more. But in actuality, you have to take other things in consideration. And if the rents are higher, but then I still have to put $50,000 into that property to maintain those current rents, then the value of that property at that price point does not make sense. So, like, for example, let's take the 1% rule. This is at 2,200. So if I use the 1% rule, that means this property should be worth $220,000. So if someone does that and they use the 1% rule and they say, hey, I'm selling this for 187, you are getting $40,000 worth of equity because of the 1% rule, they would be incorrect. And the simple fact why they would be incorrect is because if I already says, let's just take the conservative number and just say we need to put 55,000 into this. If I sold it at 187 plus 55,000, now I'm at what? That's 243. So I'm at 243,000. You just told me the property is actually worth 220,000. I'm selling you to at 187 at a discount. You're winning. Incorrect. Because I have to put the 55,000 in there just to maintain these 1,200, and then that means I can't even raise rents because the average rent in the area is 1,200, 1,233. So all I could do is raise the rent in unit 2 to get it to 1,200, and unit 1 maintains it, and then I have to improve that unit, and I can't even raise the rent now. So these are the things you have to take in consideration, right? You just can't. The 1% rule is cool. It's a funnel, but it's not the bees all end all, right? If you just took it off the 1% rule, that's how someone can take advantage of you. So it's breaking it down like post rehab scenario, right? It's saying there's a possibility I can get it to 1150 on the other one, and then 1250 possibly, maybe 1250, 1400. Like now you're really pushing it. Like now we're really updating everything, right? We gotta put everything nice in there. We really updating. We put the money in there to get the value that we're looking to get out of it, right? So if you can get the rents up to this point, then there's a possibility that all makes sense, right? So before it gives its final verdict, I am going to put another report in there. Please use this buyer report to assist with proceeding to E and giving the final outcome. So this is another report. Again, I'm using a lot of things because I am a licensed broker. So there's things that I have access to, like the MLS, like Realtors Property Resources, which is offered by NPR. I mean, not NPR, the National Association of Realtors, NAR. And so there's just certain things. So as I tell everyone, like we send people through our 90-day program. There's our programs that things you should do, right? I always say, first thing you should always do, you should go talk to a lender, right? A lender is someone who's going to tell you if you can buy a property or not. That's who you first talk to. After you get that, then you should talk to a real estate agent, because all a real estate agent is going to do is say, cool, you want to buy a property? Here, go to a lender and find out how much you can get. So until you kind of understand your finances, talking to a real estate agent doesn't really help you. It just gives you maybe some access to looking at stuff. But now with Zillow, properties are kind of already, you can go look at stuff. So, so I gave it this report. It's going to take everything that I kind of give. I typically use 4 different reports to run my analysis. So CMA, MLS, Rentometer, and the buyer report. So I kind of always use those to analyze my deals. So if you wanted my secret, there it is. So the buyer report again is bringing it back down. Recent sales 160,000. So it's probably resold. It probably sold off the market 20,000 less. AVM range, so 145 to 180. So obviously flip is off the deck. BRRRR only if you can do certain things. So that's why the caution sign is there. Buy and hold, best available, very weak, just based off of everything that's going on. Like all in with fixing it up, you're 240 when it's valued at 160. So, right? Wholesaling, requires 70 to 90,000. That's the only way someone's going to try to pick that up. Creative financing, still a condition, right? Even though it's an LLC, you might be able to work something out, because if they really want their price, maybe you can say, hey, let me hold a note for the next 3 years so that I can get it up, raise the value, force appreciation, and then I can pay you out. But then, I can pay you some monthly bills. I mean, monthly rent, because you have a note and I'm paying that off. And so then my balloon payment is in, 2-3 years. So those are some of the things you could do to try to make this a deal. So love the council. It said override. It's not a flip, not a BRRRR at the current price, and not wholesale at the current price. So key matrix ARV is 165 to 180. It has on the market at 187. Again, based on the rents, it makes sense, especially if you use the 1% rule. It's bringing in 2,200. So 2,200 divided by 1%, that's 220,000. I can easily see someone saying, me selling this at 187 is a deal. Not when you have to incorporate everything you need to do, which is the rehab. So rehab is between 70 and 95,000. It will not make sense buying it at 187. Because if I have to put that amount of money in there, and let's just take it on the low end, let's just use the 187 with the 70. Now I'm in at 257. I'm never going to get that back. No time soon. I'm not going to be able to refinance it out. I got to rent stabilize at 2,500. So that means I got to raise rents 300 on the one of the units and 500 on the other. I don't know if that's possible, right? And the market value income base is 155 to 170. So you would have to buy it at 65,000 or 80,000 just to make it make sense. And that doesn't necessarily make sense because they're getting rents at 1,200 to 1,000. So there's a disconnect somewhere, right? And that's part of what you have to better understand and what you have to do from an analyzing standpoint of, okay, how do I make this a deal, right? And this might be something I if that was my client, like, hey, man, I don't think this is the right price. Is there a way we can work together to, reposition yourself, right? Maybe you need to hold on to this property. We can fix it up once the tenant moves out. Then we can put it back on the market at that 187 and you can recoup it. Or maybe it's worth 200 at that point and you need to just put some money in there. Can we go get a hard money loan and refinance it and then be able to put some money back into it so you can make it worth more, right? There's a bunch of ways that you can reassess this. I always talk to some of my clients about repositioning their property, right? That's how I approach it. I don't always just, when someone comes to me and say, hey, let's put it on the market, I try to consult them and really strategize on what is the best situation. Is it putting back on the market? I have a client right now, had a single family home, had a tenant in it, and gave them, a few options. I was like, hey, man, someone who's going to be looking at this more than likely is going to be in the area they're going to, want to buy and move in. So they're going to move out the tenant. This is what the price would be based on that right now. Typically, an investor is probably going to buy this and then they're going to move that person out and fix it up. Could you do that, fix it up, and now you get the price that you want, and now we can sell it to the end buyer? They chose the third choice, right? If I was just a regular agent, I would have just took that property and I would put it on the market. When you working with investors, you have to look at the deal differently than just putting properties on the market. You have to truly assess it and see what the true value is. I truly believe in the highest and best, um, for that property, right? What is the highest and best use for that property? And sometimes just putting it on the market and selling it is not the highest and best use for your client, and definitely for the market. So now the verdict is, the council finds the acquisition basis 160 recent sale exceeds both income and comparable value ceilings. The right required rehab scope material rolls all exit margins, and the deal functions under unrealistic pricing or assumptions. So the council does go off of 5 different scoring, and it rejects it based off of that. I gave it a lot of information, so you do get points and scoring for the amount of information you give it. You could have it just assess it based off, just general information you give it. It's going to score you a little bit lower because it's going to say, hey, I have to think of this information, so I'm going to score you a little bit less. The whole point of the calculator is to teach you to become a better investor and how to become better at analyzing. So getting as much data on a potential investment is a reward, right? And it helps you do your reps, right? The more reps you do, the better you get at it. It's just no different than lifting weights to analyzing deals. So it supports the rental demand. Again, I believe the area is good for rental. Duplex, there's a bunch of duplexes in the area, so it configures to the environment. So it's not something that stands out from that standpoint. There is some room that is saying after a renovation. Red flags purchase price is just disconnect from income reality, right? I love that part because that's the reality of some of these investors and, like I said, agents who, just because they just look at something face value, they assume that's the true reality of it when it's not. I believe there is a heavy rehab. You can see that it was updated a little bit, but everything's mismatching, and you got to take pride, right? So I call my company Raise the Standard, and my little motto is, I don't want to say little motto, but if the deal doesn't make my life better, my family, my clients, in the community, I don't want to do that deal. And that's how we need to, as even people that's in the market that represents individuals, like that's how we need to approach this. Like, don't just come in our market and buy something else and just rent it as is when it needs to be improved, right? Those are individuals. And as I was saying, I mean, as I try to teach my clients, when we're running numbers, always remember the human aspect of it, because each line item, that's a person. Like even taxes, like the IRS, I know we like to say that's government, but there's an individual that collects, and do that, right? The individual comes out. Landscaping, that's an individual. It might be a business, but it's still a person. The water, there's a water meter person that comes out. The energy, an energy person that comes out. A roofer, the rehab, that's a person, right? All these things are people, and sometimes we can get disconnected and just see the number and not see the human being. Like the rental, I know we get happy about rent, like the 1,200 on here, the 1,000. That's a family. Those are 2 families that is living in that home that is paying that money, that you're hoping that there's enough left over to improve your family situation. So please don't forget the human element to all of what we're trying to accomplish here. This is what the council is asking for approval: purchase price reduction to 80, 100,000, verified mechanical conditions, confirmed 2-unit strategy, right? So part of, if you wanted to move forward, is like, okay, when you go in there and look at certain stuff, like verify the mechanical conditions, does that something you need to do? Because then now you can come back and say, hey, it doesn't need this approval. Hey, the kitchen only needs a slight update. Hey, because a lot of this is just based off of what we right here, right? We don't know the true essence of that property based off of just running the numbers here, right? So sometimes people turn away deals because they don't know the true condition of the property, and maybe they need to actually go look at the property to see what is actually worth. Because right now I might walk away from this deal just based off of this, and it might be truly a good deal if I actually go look at it. But that's part of the funnel, right? You want to eliminate stuff so you can focus on the things that is more aligned on what you're trying to accomplish. But the other cool thing about the console and this calculator is that it still lets you know what you could do to try to make this deal possible. It doesn't it doesn't try to sell you hype. It's saying, hey, don't move forward with this because we can make this happen. No, it's like, okay, if you truly want to see how these are the things you would need to try to change to make this a deal. And then just like Aspire, we always want you to move forward. We always want you to do something. Never stay stagnant. So the council will always give you 5, 6, 7 things to do to either move forward with this deal or step away from the deal. So submit offer at 80,000, right? If you really still like, hey, I want to consider this, still submit that offer, right? And this is where, like that's a low offer. The beauty of this calculator, you can say put an email together supporting this, right? And that email be like, hey, I'm not just writing you a low offer just to be writing you a low offer. This is the reason why I'm writing you the low offer. Now, if you can contradict me and say, hey, no, these things have been updated, these things need to be done, this could be happening, and I think that number is wrong, then now you can adjust. Right now, I'm having a conversation, which now then I can have a true negotiation with that person. So it gives you 6 things that you can do to keep moving forward so that you don't have to sit here and just say, I don't know what to do next, right? And now it's always say, here's your assignment, which I also love. The council always gives you an assignment to do so that you're just not sitting there. Now it says locate 3 duplexes where rent already supports purchase price, not where rehabs must create it. So find 3 duplexes in that area where you feel like, hey, this price is correct. Now let me come back and assess it because I actually think there's other things in the area that goes for 187,200, and maybe if I can improve that amount, get them to go down a little bit lower on it, I can support this. So there you have it. We just analyzed that deal. This is how to analyze it using the Aspire format. A for sorry about that. So A for asset address, S is for seller situation, P is for purchase price, purchase assumption, I is for improvement and investment, R is for revenue, and E is for exit strategy. So use that. You can also use that back of the napkin, so you don't always need to use this calculator, but use that framework to help you analyze deals, right? Like what do I need to know to analyze a deal? Well, there you have it, right? I need to find the actual property, right? I need to know the address. I need to know if it's a duplex or a single family or a 4-unit. What is the seller situation? Can I look at the taxes? I don't know how to look at the taxes. Learn how now, right? Because now I need that information. P, purchase price. Is it on the market? If not, let me cold call. Hey, what would you sell your house for? I, for investment, hey, I was able to actually walk it. Let me find a general contractor to let me know how much these things would cost to fix them up, right? Our revenue, let me look up local rents. Let me use Zillow. Let me use apartments.com. Let me use Rental Meter, right? And then E's exit strategy. Okay, if I actually bought this, what would I want to do? Would I want to buy and hold it? Would I want to burn it? Would I want to fix and flip it? Am I going to try to wholesale it, right? So use this to keep moving forward, to better understand how to analyze deals so that you can get in the game if you're not in the game. And if you're already in the game, this is how you can scale and move faster, right? So that's really what Aspire is meant to do. Is Aspire to do more, inspire you to grow your business, inspire you to actually buy your first property. I'm jumping for joy because someone who's a part of Aspire, a big shout out to Jamal. He has been working with me for over a year. I think it's almost 2 years when I actually met him. And being able to get him from there and having, conversations with him, sticking with him and finally finding a deal where he was able to close on a duplex actually with no money down. He actually found a down payment assistance. He was able to get into a first home buyer program with Huntington Bank. Big shout out to Tabitha to get some other resources, help pay down his closing costs and everything else, and literally didn't have to come to closing with any money. And so he was able to purchase a duplex with no money down and was able to actually walk away with some money because of the prorated rent. So big shout out to Jamal. He's actually going to be at our next meetup, which is this Wednesday, April 8th from 5:30 to 7:30 at Next Home My Way headquarters, 5151 South Howell Avenue. He's going to be actually speaking about this experience. Just wanted to, I'm just proud of it, man. Like, I'm proud to be a part of that and proud to, put things that we talk about into real life and know that it actually works, right? It was a great situation for the seller and buyer. I was able to be on both sides of that deal. And it was just an amazing experience just to be a part of that. So again, I want to give a huge shout out to Next Home My Way again for sponsoring this and allowing me to use the media room. And big shout out to them letting us use the headquarters for our monthly meetings. And always looking for agents. So if you are interested in being a real estate agent or broker and you're looking for a home, please reach out to me, Jose, or Carlos. We are happy to hang your license up here at Next Home My Way and give you a system to help you grow your business. And then again, I am with Raise the Standard Real Estate under Next Home My Way. Your real estate investment broker. So again, thank you. Aspire Mastermind Meetup Group is this Wednesday, 5:30 to 7:30, 5151 South Howell Avenue. We'll have Jamal be speaking. And yeah, thank you for joining me again. Appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can DM me. You can find me on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Thank you for joining me. Beleza.